morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Morning here in Park City, Utah. Late afternoon across Great Britain, and evening across the European continent. Wherever you are, thanks so much for tuning in for our coverage of the third women's bobsled race of this Viessmann FIBT World Cup Olympic season. Hello once again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer, pleased to be joined by John Morgan at a track that provided quite a bit of drama over 4 races yesterday, John.
Quite a marathon session of racing, and it's a short track, one of the shortest on the circuit. Alana Myers and Aja Evans start record. They did that a month ago. U.S. trials up here. Now this is where it gets fast. Sunny curve. You really start to fall out of a 4-story building now into snowy. You start to feel the G-forces. Now a 3-corner labyrinth. Every track's got to have one. And now you exit these labyrinths, meticulous type steering to a straightaway, and this big pressure curve to the left. Wasatch, named after the mountains and a couple local breweries. Now into the bottom part of the track. You're flying 80+ miles an hour. The Olympic curve, 5 G's of force. You exit now going uphill to what I call the graveyard of time. You make a mistake here, no chance into the finish. It's a short track. It's easy to get down. It's hard to get down fast.
And that track record will probably be safe for yet another year because of the snowy conditions today that didn't come close. It was very fast last night, but no track record. As you look at a gray day in the Wasatch Front, as Alana Myers leads the World Cup standings, tied with Kaillie Humphries, thanks to the fact that they have both had a first and a second, with Jamie Grubel finishing third in both races. Look at the Germans in 4th place. Kyrgios back in 10th place. We had the debut of the Koreans last night. That was exciting to see, and they looked pretty impressive. All of these same drivers will be on hand, some of them with different brakemen, in today's competition.
Tim, this is the second Women's World Cup race of the weekend. This is because the FIBT is forced to host 8 World Cups on 7 venues before the January 17th IOC Olympic date, when you have to submit the names of the people participating in the Sochi Winter Olympic Games. So they've had this advanced pressure. So we have 6 races here this weekend. We have 7 races next weekend in Lake Placid.
Right, so the snow will impact the sledding all day. It's not expected to let up too much. The fortunate thing, it is not snowing that heavily. You'll see some shades on the track throughout the competition. 2-man ahead. We start with the women, and the Olympic champions will head things off as you check out the start list. The top 20 will qualify for the second run, and there are only 20 today. Again, our welcome to the viewers around the world. We are, as always, interactive here in the first run, so your tweets and your emails. We welcome your comments and questions. Our Twitter address, at Bobsleigh TV, BOBSKELE TV, and our email address, bobsleighTV@gmail.com.
You notice Heather Moyes is not in the lineup with Kaillie Humphries. It's the brakeman she used last year, Chelsea Valois. And she had a lot of results, good results with Chelsea too. So some of these ladies just decided. There's a lot of brakeman changes in the field, Tim. We'll see that, because you know the women are not used to going back to back. The men do it in 2-man and 4-man. The women, this is a very unique, different situation that they've never done before. Maybe once before when there was a canceled race in the previous couple weeks.
Right.
They might have doubled them up, but
and on America's Cup circuit, but not so much. Almost never on the World Cup. It's good practice, though, in another regard, John, as they continue to get the track ready for this first sled. At the Olympic Games, of course, it's 4 heats, so they will be competing in back-to-back days.
Good point, great point, good challenge for them. You know, and here's the Olympic champion, Kaillie Humphries, who's not real happy about getting beat last night. You know, and Tim, we noticed she didn't have a very good start time last night with Heather Moyes. What they did in Calgary last week was, you know, Superman, super women type push times. Here, Alana Myers and Aja Evans caught them.
That's right.
And that was the difference. And Kaillie didn't have great drives down the track. But when you have the superior start time like she did last week in Calgary, she doesn't have to have superior drives.
And don't cry for me, Canada, just because Heather Moyes is not on the sled with Kaillie Humphries, because last year, Kaillie won a whole string of World Cup races with this brakeman, Chelsea Valois. So they are actually tied for the lead in the World Cup standings.
It says World Cup second. Yeah,
something alphabetical with our computers here. So time to kick back and get ready for 2 World Cup races to conclude the Park City stop. Canada on the track.
Again, we talked about start times. You know, 5:10 is the start record. I don't think we're going to see that. 5:37. She was either a snowplow. We're going to find that out. If people start going by her at the start, she was at a big disadvantage going first. Most of the time, Tim, that's a big advantage. So it might be, it might have changed direction on her here in the first run.
Last night we saw times in the low 49-second mark. Those were the winning times. About 0.2 of a second off of the track record. We could see the high 49s today, John.
Yeah, different track, overnight, cold, snow. Snow gets on the track, it's tough to clean it. Doesn't have that glistening effect.
Really clean ride, though. Based on what we've seen all weekend, this was down the center of the track, 49.83, so some 0.8 of a second slower than last night's time.
In fact, she's a second 0.10 off the record. So I think, but again, Tim, we have to wait for the next sled.
Wait
for the next sled coming up to see if that was good, bad, or the ugly of being the first person off. Usually, 80% of the time, you want to be the first person off. 10%, I don't know, but there's 10% where it can really be a disadvantage. We're going to find out with the next sled coming down. And it's a fordable sled, too. Start, well, she didn't get the start she had last night with Moise, but Chelsea Valois, they had the best start times on circuit last year. What a luxury it is to have 2 brakemen that can provide her the best starts on a consistent basis.
The first 2 stops on the World Cup has been a North American medal fest. All of the medals won by USA and Canada. This has been the best foreign competitor so far, German pilot Kaillie Martini.
Yeah, 4th last night. She gets a deficient start time, but 5:44, only 700ths away. That tells me she's got a chance. She was 4th last night.
5th last night, 4th last week.
So she's just been outside the podium. And she is probably, in my opinion, the best pure driver on the planet. And she's only got it up to +8, which means she might have stopped the bleeding. 132.5, that's better speed than Martini or than Humphries.
And a good drive line here in the lower part of the track.
Speed on this track, on this spot. She's took the lead.
She moves into the green. And this will be the key spot right down here.
Yeah, but she's one of the best pilots. Look at that, 131.9, same exact speed as Humphries, but she's going to be the leader here. Kaillie Martini makes a statement, and I tell you right now, I think Kaillie Humphries was at a disadvantage drawing number 1.
And you also get a sense that the Germans were getting a little sick of watching the others on the medal podium.
I don't think I wanted to be out to dinner with the Germans last night.
Great performance here to start off by Kaillie Martini and Kristen Zenkel, the first of 3 sleds from Germany.
Well, if you want to learn how to drive a bobsled, you always want to watch what Kaillie Martini does. How are these lines here? Look at the rudder tips. That is a 5-star rating. The entrance into the curve, she crosses over, gets on the take on early. Best driver in the planet in women's bobsleigh right there.
Sled number 3 out of 20. As the snow continues to fall in Park City, Utah. This is the team off to a very, very good start this season from Switzerland. Caroline Spani, Ariane Valsa. In the 2 races so far, they've had a 7th and a 6th. And so as you see right there, they're in the top 5 in the World Cup points.
Big surprise for anybody not familiar with women's bob. But this girl started coming on last year. And I think she has got a really good eye-hand coordination, Tim. Gives up some time at the start. So we're probably going to see her, you know, near Martini at 46, 47, 44, same time as Kaillie Martini.
Without the magical driving of Martini.
Well, this girl's coming. I think she's got no experience. 83.7. That's only 0.2 down to Humphries. That's not bad, and she's got it down to +2. Look at this. And this is where, though, Martini just accelerated down the track with her experience. Now she's lost a little bit back, and she's not on the wrong, she's on the wrong side of that straightaway. She will fall back.
Take a moment here to talk about the special challenges that face these sled technicians on a day like today.
Just a question of which runners they're going to use. They have 2 sets of runners. Cold weather, snowy, 129.4, no speed at all. So she's going to drop into 3rd place. Speed on this track, boy, can it tell you? It's, you know, you keep track of the speed. It's like first pitch strikes. baseball. It's like yards after the catch in football, greens in regulation. It can tell you a lot about what's going to happen to their time at the bottom.
Sport that's been known to, where speed's somewhat of an important factor. Stat.
Yeah. Tap there. See, she tapped before she got in, which means she's going to have to steer more, and she's late here. Crossover might hit the wall. Saw the head slapping left to right. See, look at her airborne there. She got late, and she didn't catch up for 2 or 3 quarters. But, you know, I like her. I really like what she's done. And, she, you know, she's 36 hundredths away from the lead, and last year she would have been 45 or 50 hundredths.
American Jasmine Fenlater improved from a 15th place finish last week to 4th last night. She's got a new brakeman on the brakes in the sled today, and a true athletic superstar in Lauren Williams, an Olympic silver medalist and world champion in the 100-meter.
This is her debut in the World Cup competition.
And a great start, 5:31.
Wow, the best start.
By 600s better than the Canadians.
Kaillie Humphries, wow. 84.5, the best speed we've seen at the entrance to curve 4. Huge lead, that's what that acceleration does at the start. They're saying Williams is a rising star in the U.S. program. For her to come out here and push Fenlater to the best start, now you can see she's sort of equaled the time. She might lose some time back to Fenlater.
But will she hold on to that lead?
I gotta believe she can. She can't lose this much time on the bottom of the track, which is one of her home tracks. Straight here, a little sloppy. Not the speed. She's probably gonna be 12 or 13 hundredths in front.
To the finish, the Americans do take the lead by 0.2 of a second and give a big push. And an A on the report card.
Ooh, but she did the same. That's a second consecutive day. That's the driver's problem. She's relaxing there, and she's got her hand probably on the left, turn, and she probably should have both hands there, because that's the second time in a row she's crushed that bunk into that wall.
Still, despite that, and they'll have to work on that, how about Lauren Williams? How about this battle for the brakeman positions for the United States?
That start is so impressive. With the USA going to have a lot of things to think about now. Here's the problem again. Look at her right hand's up in the air. I think she's got to put both hands back on those steering devices, because this does not, doesn't help the athletes. Watch the head snap. Boom, boom. And the sled, those things are high performance machines. They're going to have to go up and check the alignment on that sled again. That was a hard hit.
Emily Azevedo helping with that sled. She won 4th place last night with Fenlater. Now Anya Schneider-Heinz, and she also is with a new brakeman tonight, Lisette Tona. Schneider-Heinz with a 5th place in Calgary, 11th last night.
Yeah, not a very good start for the former Olympic gold medalist in 2006 as a brakeman. Great start time there, though. Speed, though, watch your left side. 84.5 speed is the best. 84.3. She's only 0.2 down. Fenlater, though, just smoked a good run. And, Schneider-Heinz's problem, she's not consistent. She's always 1 for 2 in this sport. 2 for 2 is the only way you have a chance to get on the podium, unless you have such a superior start time, which she had 2 years ago. And now the North Americans have caught her at the start. Yeah, she's losing time back, sure. Her ability to drive a sled is still on development. No speed, the worst speed we've seen, about 3 kilometers. She'll be 4th. And the Germans, they know, come on, with that start time, she should have been better than that.
Schneider-Heinz and Tona 4th out of the 5 that have gone so far. It has been a bit of a surprise in the early going here, with Canadians Humphries and Valois in 3rd. The youngest of the American team, Fenlater and Williams, leading the way.
Watch the exit here. Little airborne. Watch the heads. See this left to right action going up this graveyard. She did pretty good coming up the graveyard, straight up that hill. But when you see those heads going left to right, that's throwing motion to the sled left to right, and this is a straight ahead sport.
Hey, John, for all of the Lolo Jones fans out there, this is still early in the season, but this is a huge, huge race for this track and field superstar. Of the 5 brakemen for the United States who have competed so far, Lolo, if it's based only on results, has probably put in the poorest results. Jamie Grubel has already won 2 bronze medals. Lolo needs to perform here, right?
Well, she's got to get herself up into one of the better start times, so she should get up there into she should challenge Fenlater and Williams. She should be at least 5:33.34, which would, I think, put him in a good position.
5:34. And Grubel is a great driver. We've seen that the last 2 weeks.
She's been on a rail down the track. Lolo had a little problem. Oh, and there's a real driving problem. 84.4, telltale sign. That's good, but that skid going in there was after the start, or after the speed trap. Down to 2. Grubel, Cornell, track and field athlete.
What are these going on with these sleds? They are so fast for the United States in the first 2 weeks.
Well, they're on home track cooking too, so that's going to help. But this athlete has been coming on. 2 medals so far this season. She medaled her first time in La Plan, France last year. Graveyard, perfect. No speed though, it's going to be close.
The Americans chasing down the Americans, and this sled by 200ths of a second. Hang on, that's Todd Hayes right there. And Hayes, the former Olympic silver medalist for the United States, has been instrumental in recruiting all of these phenomenal push athletes for the United States.
Well, there's been a heavy emphasis on going after the track and field people, and that's been going on for a couple decades. When it started, when Willie Gault and Edwin Moses and Herschel Walker, the football stars, came in. But track and field athletes, especially the heavier ones, look at the stride here by Lolo. Look at she slips right there, but still good stride. Now watch the other thing is watch her power step. If we get to see the video a little longer, into the first curve, into the curve 4. This is after the speed trap. This cost her probably 5 to 10 hundredths on the bottom part of the track. You can't make that mistake, Tim, up where the sleds are going slow. You can't get in that type of skid when they're going that fast.
Paula Walker off to a good start as well on this young season with a 10th and an 8th place for the tall British pilot from Blackburn. Competing once again with her regular brakeman, 22-year-old Rebecca Wilson. This team has been together for several years, dating back to their junior days. As you see Peter Gunn working those big nails down at the bottom of the shoes.
The driver's 6'1", the brakeman's 5'6". Usually it's the other way around. This is the tallest driver in the field. 5'10". She didn't do bad last night. Her driving, she is 3 out of 4. Good heat. She has a bad heat in there once in a while. 84 kilometers. She's a half kilometer down to the top sleds there. That's going to transfer to that 2/10 deficiency. Hopefully the next clock should only be 22 or 23 down, and she'll have a chance.
So at that split, a quarter of a second, we'll see if this squad from Great Britain can stay in the top 5 with perfect driving. They should be able to do so.
She can. Perfect drive. 34 though, that's relevant to the start, and she continues to lose time in the straightaway here. No speed, 130.1. Probably bad selection of runners.
5th out of the 7 that have gone down. 4,200 back. In fact, things are very tight right now, 4, 5, and 6 in the standings. John, that one area down at the bottom of the track, that low straightaway before the uphill finish curve, caused so much trouble yesterday for the bobsledders and skeleton. It seems a little more forgiving today.
Well, there's a little bump on the exit of that curve, the Olympic curve. A lot of sleds were hitting that bump. I sort of like it, because I don't want to see sleds come right down the middle of the track. I want to see a challenge. Here, look at the runner tips. Can't see that little brakeman back there. Look at the speeds and the finish. Martini with the best by a lot. And that's why I call her the best driver in the world. She has a deficient start time. And on these short tracks of 1,300 meters, bad start times, deficient start times, doesn't do good for your finish time.
Say what you want about the North American dominance in the early going of this season. To me, the biggest story has been this pilot, Zandra Kyrgiasis, the best ever in this sport, has opened up this Olympic year with a 6th place and last night a 13th place.
Just seems like they're going through the motions. She's trying to save her 38-year-old frame because it's a long season. There's another 100+ trips before she gets to Sochi. That takes a toll on you. Food, everybody's going to catch a cold. You lift weights every day, the travel. It takes a wear and tear on your body. So, it's like why decathletes are so good in this sport. By the time they get to the end of the season here in bobsledding, everybody's beat up. And I always have to say you have to have a decathlete attitude going into the Olympic Games, because you are not going to be in perfect shape.
Hey, she's keeping it close after all of that negative buildup. Just 500 back at the last split.
Wow!
So she could be top 2 or 3 if she keeps it perfect down here.
And if there's anybody can't, no, the 138. So she's got good speed, not bad. Top 4, 3. So that's not bad.
Sandra Kiriasis has been the third out of 3 Germans in each of the first 2 races. There's always a battle amongst those 2 drivers, or those 3 drivers. Sandra and Kathleen have never had huge warm feelings.
The start time, Tim. The start time. The start time. Last night she was 25 30/100ths off the start. Tonight she's only 700ths back, or today. With 700ths deficient start time, and you drive like this right here, look at the runner tip. She's trying to get over on the left side to get on the take-on. Nope, look at her exit, is perfect. You see some shoulders back there, which you shouldn't see. Little drift, little tap. Didn't have great speed in the bottom. That could be relevant to the fact that she's going 7th or 8th here.
Well, that hug tells you a lot in the back of the screen there, because it has been a rough start of the season for Kiriasis. They're moving the sleds along very quickly today. That is the modus operandi when you have snow at a World Cup race. Here's Russia. The Russian sled piloted by a veteran now, Olga Stolneva, a former brakeman for Victoria Tokavai, a great athlete who's won a Summer Olympic gold medal.
4x100 relay in Athens. Start.
Ludmila.
Great start. Now, she's in her 4th year, 3rd year of driving. She was a brakeman. Look at that turn right there and that exit 1. Speed 8. See that she's got the worst speed of the first 7 sleds with one of the best start times. That little drive around curve 1 cost her that velocity speed that we saw pop up to the left. Now she's going to just lose time all the way down. You can't make a mistake at the top of the track. You can make a mistake down here at 80 miles an hour. It's not going to cost you too much. Yeah, not bad though. Only 2/10ths back. Into the finish. That's great speed. 2,500ths back. That's not bad.
5th place.
Not bad. And I'm saying not bad because the mistake up in curve 1 is how not to do it. And if we get a chance to see that, you'll just see she steered around there instead of letting the corner, go around with the corner. She steered on the take-on of the curve and came down the middle of the curve. You don't want to steer. It's not. Here's a great start. I mean, this is one of the better athletes in the front seat here. I mean, again, an Olympic silver medalist in track and field from Athens. So she can sprint. Watch the curve 1. Watch her steer. Look how high she gets there. She's above the runner marks. Now she's got to come over to the other side, and this curve here is where she made the mistake. Watch this right here. She comes down the middle. Watch her steer there. See that sled just take that abrupt steer? You can't do that.
Next up, we have our 3rd of 3 Americans. The USA holds down the top 2 spots. Alana Myers and Aja Evans, the one pairing on that USA team that has not been split up so far this season. Myers and Evans, a 1st and a 2nd so far. They're tied for the World Cup lead. Very fast team here at the start.
Should be in the 26, 27. 22. Well, there is, if Alana's not the leader at the bottom, that's because she did not drive well. And the speed should be 84.6. That's as good as we've seen. Tap there, though, you heard that noise. 17, should accelerate at 22 or 23 here. If not, that tap was really costly. Yep, sees that tap up there.
And still a little bit of driving happening here, a bit of veering of those runners. Yeah. This will be tight. Should be top 3 though. Now it will be the lead as she opens things up here at the bottom.
Watch out for this graveyard. 132.1, not the best speed, but should be good enough.
So the Americans cross the finish line. They hold the top 3 spots in the standings after the first seed is gone. Hey, John, we have been to many European events where the Germans took the top 3 positions. It's been the opposite here. We'd be hypocritical if I didn't say this is a little bit actually boring to see one nation dominate so much, and hopefully things will be a little tighter in the second run.
You line up the German driver. Watch this start here. I think we see a slip here from Aja. Right there, look at that, she slips there. Look at that, and that's the 2nd time we've seen an American athlete slip. If I'm a coach up there, I talk about people clean those spikes, and that ice might be a little soft from the snow being on it. Even though they sweep it, ice gets a little soft, but look at the drive. This is the tap she had right there, cost her a lot of time. I'm really, really down on that tap, but she's still 2,200s up, right?
And
1,700s
on her way to becoming the World Cup leader.
I don't think there's anybody else in the field that's going to catch them.
Myers, Grubel, Fenlater, Kiriasis, and Martini. It's a USA-Germany affair so far. We still have one more Canadian sled a little later on, Jen Cacchetti. Let's see what some of these next athletes can do, trying to make their way into the top 10. Fabienne Meyer, the former world junior champion, competing today with Michelle Huvela.
Different brakeman than last night, and one thing Fabienne Meyer did last night was very disappointing. Not her placing in the field, was the fact that she got beat by the other Swiss sled.
That's right.
These two ladies are very competitive, the two Swiss sleds.
She's been beaten. Oh, big problems there. She's been beaten by Spotty in each of the first 2 races and on her way to being defeated by her teammate again.
And all she could do to not be last or coming down the track now. That is as crucial a mistake as you can make at this track, what she just did.
So much was expected of her, especially when she broke onto the scene, and she had a good year last year.
Yeah, but boy, she's got a lot of pressure on her. There's Swiss media here in our TV truck. They're here just to cover the Swiss team, and they get big media coverage. Oh, she lifted the head up there. The brakeman lifted the head up.
And then they put it back down right across the finish.
Yeah, but she almost was ready to put the brakes on.
Well, Switzerland, out of 11 sleds right now, sit 10th and 11th in the standings. This from the birth nation of the sport of bobsled, and one that takes this sport very, very seriously.
Straight through, steers on the exit of the curve. That causes pressure. So again, she missed the setup on curve 3, and it finally beat her up. Now watch here, watch the brakeman's head come up. Look at it, she's up. She's looking around. Oh, this isn't the finish. Puts it back down. Well, looks up again. Come on, Michelle. You should know this track better than that.
Esme had a 15th place finish in Calgary with this brakeman, Sanne Dekker, last week. Last night with Judith Viess, Kamphaus improved to 7th place. So the brakeman, like so many of them in the sport, is really on the hot seat today as brakemen are trying to posture for positions in the top sled.
Yeah, but this team here with a top 7 finish qualified for the Olympics through the Dutch Olympic Committee standards of finishing in the top 8.
The driver did, but there's still a battle among the brakemen.
But they're going to bring an extra brakeman no matter what.
That's right, that's right. A good start, 5:34. Sanne Dekker finished 3rd 2 weeks ago at the World Push Championships in Calgary.
A young rising star in the sport. Last year, Tim, it is unbelievable that Sanne Dekker broke her back.
Right.
And she's out here competing in a sport. We can ask one of our sound technicians about his back when he went down the track the other day, what he feels like.
And Martin,
pressure.
Martin Haven, watching us in England right now, went down this track last.
Ooh, that's a big dive out of that curve.
And he's still feeling the pain.
Yeah. That's why I don't get into sleds anymore. This is not a sport. It is a sport for the young, I'll put it that way. But she's a 22-year-old young rising star. Boy, the Dutch continue to improve with recruiting good athletes into their program.
80 miles an hour, crossing the finish in 10th place.
Not happy,
Coach
Nicola Minicello.
Minicello is not pleased with what she sees.
Well, the 5th best start. I mean, great start. And I lay that on the driver. But you saw one curve. I hope they show it to us. She was up at the top of the roof, and then that's a lot of steering. Look at it. I think it's here. Look at her come. She's going to on the wrong side of that straightaway. Watch. This is where the problem starts. She's going to the middle of the curve, and here she's got to steer big time. Look at those marks. It's like a tic-tac-toe thing. She's going across the lines where she should be. That is exactly how not to do it.
Our next sled up at the top, the Belgian sled. It's a sled nicknamed the Belgian Bullets, and the pilot is Elfie Willemsen. The Belgian team, the Bullet, actually was built by Latvian Janis Straskins, who's also coaching this Belgian team. I've got a lot of other good information on this squad, John, thanks to Kim De Vrij, who emails us, and she's involved with television in Belgium and covering this team. Thanks, Kim.
Hannah Mariana, Summer Olympic Games competitor, another crossover from the summer to the winter. And there's only been one athlete ever to win a Winter and Summer Olympic Games gold medal. Tim?
Eddie Egan. That's going to change this year. I'm going out on a very, very fat limb to say at this coming Winter Olympics, you will see a summer Olympic medalist win a Winter Olympic medal.
No, gold.
Oh, gold.
Gold.
Oh, okay, well, Lauren Williams has a chance.
Well, Lauren Williams in her World Cup debut was extremely impressive, pushing Jasmine Fenelator in her first ever World Cup start. Really, really impressive. Well, the Belgian bullet here suffered at the start, 13th best start, but they did pretty good last week. You know, Belgium got the long history and tradition of the sport back in the 30s and 40s. And women's bobsled has brought Belgium back into the bobsled limelight. They had a TV story and then qualified for the Olympics in 2008, 9, and 10. Camera crews followed them around. It was a great public relations tool for the sport of bobsledding and in Belgium.
Yeah, and back in 2006, this is a team that was just struggling to try to make the Olympic game. Everyone was rooting for them. They did make the Olympic team. But, John, if you look at the stats so far this season, they're off to a top 10, a 12th place last night, and they look very good, especially with the driving.
Yeah, she gets a deficient start time. Boy, good aerodynamics by the brakeman there. She got in the sled, but that wasn't a good drive. She needs to hit a home run every time she comes down the track because she has a deficient start time.
Jen Kaillie for Canada not off to the start she was hoping this season, with a 9th and a 10th place, competing today with Emily Bobsleigh instead of Chelsea Valois, who's on the Humphries sled.
Canadians deep enough to be able to switch brakemen like this, like the U.S. team. 5:31. Well, Kaillie was a brakeman on the 2012 World Championship sled driven by Kaillie Humphries.
Also pushed Helen Upperton to several World Cup victories.
Yeah, and now she's done the transition from the back seat to the front seat, and she's in charge, controls her own destiny now. Great athlete. These are pretty good lines. But she lost a lot from that start time, and that is, you skid going into that high-speed Wasatch corner. You are just throwing 1/10 of a second away, if not more. Half second down.
To the finish now, trying to chase into the top 10.
Lowest speed we've seen, Tim.
Lots of mistakes as Kaillie crosses in 14th place out of 14. Everyone in this Canadian program has to be shaking their head. She had been emerging, really progressing so much over the last couple of years, her first few years as a driver.
Well, let me tell you this, it's great that they got an awesome athlete like Jen Kaillie in the front seat.
In the front seat, that was
But
the first
when you take 10 great athletes in the front seat, you might find 1 or 2 who can drive. Not everybody can drive a bobsled. This is not as easy as you think. And I'll guarantee you come out and take your first ride, we can look in your eyes and tell you to go to the parking lot, or we can tell you to go back to the top and try it again. And, you know, it's just something that not everybody can do.
Now, she did have a 6th place finish. It hasn't been all bad results.
No.
Kaillie finished 6th in Sochi last year, which makes the start of this season all that more mystifying.
Well, no, it's because she had 2 good runs. She's got a great start time. And when you have a great start time, you can make a few mistakes.
Second Russian sled now, Anastasia Tombatseva. And I'm going to let you pronounce this brakeman name because I love hearing you say the pronunciations, John.
What are you trying to draw me into?
Number 15 here.
Solovenia.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Evgeny Solovina.
Evgenia.
Well, this is a good driver. Anastasia, very good, very competent driving, but the start time deficient. 14th best start. But, you know, watch these lines. So, watch the nice sit up and the way she comes around the curve. She sets herself up perfectly straight for this. 83 once, not bad considering the start deficiency. 84 and a half, 84.6 is what Alana Myers had. So she's 6/10 back. Why? Well, she's the 14th best start. And on this track, you know, that's decent speed there. She could have decent speed in the bottom, but as I said that, she makes a crucial mistake. And
in case you're just joining us, the United States holds down the top 3 positions, followed by a pair of Germans. The Canadian, Kaillie Humphries, back in 7th place, which is probably the biggest surprise so far here in run number 1. Across the finish line, bouncing from wall to wall, Pierre Luder's second Russian sled, now in 15th place, out of 15, with the 14th best start.
He's sitting there, I got to take her to the Olympics. You know, he was a pushing driver. He was one of the first real unbelievable athletes in the front seat. I don't want to take anything away from Brian Scheimer, who started at the same time, but they were the same great pushing drivers in the front seat.
Was Langen a push athlete, or did he start as a...
No, Langen was a medalist in the '92 Olympics.
As a driver?
Medalist. No. He was a medalist at the 1991 World Championships in the 4-man with Harold Chodak.
And then became a driver
the next year. Bronze medal. And in '93, he won the his first of many World Championships with superior start times. But, you know, you got to have an athlete in the front seat. At women's bobsledding 8 years ago, Kaillie was a dominant start time, and Shauna Roebuck was dominant in the start time. Now you got 8, 9, 10 girls who can really push at the start.
That's right. And conversely, Jamia Jackson, for example, who was a great driver, just could not bust it out at the start. These are the Austrians, the 14th best start so far, so you know their run is all but done.
Last night, though, she had some. That's what you skid here. See, you just look at that exit of that curve, and if she's on the exit, she's going to skid going into that curve 4, and you can't do that when you've got the deficient start time. Boy, it sounded like a broken record here, but on this track, you must have that start, and you must have that entrance into curve 4 with good velocity. And when you have a bad start, you can't make sideways skids like she was making on the way down. Hengster, though, sometimes she puts 2 good heats together. She can drive.
Everyone in this field will have a second run. Only 20 sleds competing today. 3 more to come after Hengster, actually 4 more, as the Austrians cross the finish line in 16th place. And if we look at the standings, John, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 pretty much are pretty safe at this point. There might be some shuffling to get back into the top 10. But boy, the best keep on getting better.
Well, it's all the starts. The person with the best start time is the leader. There's these lines by Fenelator late on that exit of curve 3. When you're late there, it causes you to skid going into 4. Sayonara there. Watch the lines here. She's trying to get over to the left side of our screen. She's aiming, but she's steered too hard, hits the take on. That forces her down in the middle of the next curve. She gets up in the middle of the curve, and she has to hard steer to get off. Friction, negative finish time.
Second of 3 British sleds now up at the top of the hill, piloted by Victoria. Oh, it's the Australians. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I was excited about the 2 British sleds coming up. This is Astrid Wilkinson-Radjanovic with Jane Pittman.
Another summer Olympian. You know, Astrid, not a bad driver. She gets good heats, but she's got this start deficiency. It's not all. I don't think it's Pittman's fault. I think if Pittman was in there was 2 Pittmans in that sled, I think they'd be down there challenging good times. But Astrid can drive. Look at the way she got in and out of that curve 3 to 4 combination. 83.5. 5,800s down.
Now the snow continues to fall.
The track's getting slower.
On a day like today, obviously people that know the sport know the leaders will go last in the second run. Do you see any unpredictability happening as a result?
I think the Germans are so angry that they're going to do what the Germans do best, high under pressure. They're under pressure here. German media, they're reading the press clippings back home.
Our good friend Frank has come all the way over from Germany, flew 11 hours. He did not want to see his team off the podium, did he?
Yeah. Well, that was the wrong, just had the wrong brake. Was he on a Pittman?
Well,
yeah, I think it was
we have an updated start list here. It wasn't Pittman, it was Ebony Goranchu.
Sorry, Ebony. That was you made a change on us.
Sounds like someone else from with an Eastern European name may have married.
Well, Ebony's
an Australian.
A little smaller.
Now we got the first of 2 British sleds, the second and third rather. And Vicky Olio is the pilot, a 30-year-old from London, paired today with Kelly Denyer, a young 23-year-old brakeman. A climber, a rock climber from Great Britain.
Didn't she compete in that World Push Championships?
Name rings a bell.
She did. I think she finished like 4th. 3rd or 4th? 4th. 5th. Well, let's see what these British athletes can do. Victoria, been around for a few years. Start time, push bar didn't come in. Real deficient. Let's see her here on the exit 2, the 3. Down the left side, want to see her on the left side. That's good, should be straight here. Not straight. Now she's 6/10 and the snow's falling. She's coming late in the heat, the track's cut up. And in this track, they always say the first 3 or 4 sleds had an advantage, but that wasn't true today for Kaillie Humphries. Humphries in 7th place. We thought she was going to sweep the whole season, but when we saw Calgary last week,
she threatened to do it last year as
late
well.
there.
Now down to the lower spot with a couple of taps and some skids making their way to the finish. This is the second of 3 British sleds in 18th place out of 18. And there has been little to no shifting among these sleds in the second seed today. You know, their goal, John, of course, is to hope to jump into the top 10.
That's
maybe
all
surprise someone, and that did happen in the first 2 races.
You know, they're not experienced. They aren't familiar with the equipment. They have good coaching, but it takes time. Somebody asked Steve Holcomb the other night, when did you become a good driver? And he said about my 7th year in.
Right.
Jeez, that's a lot of time.
Sure.
He's now into his 12th, 13th year of driving, and here's that little skid. That's worth 2/10 at the bottom. Look at the brakeman buried back there. Good pose by her brakeman there.
Young British pilot now
Kelly
set to go. Misha McNeil, 20 years old from Newcastle, and she has a world champion pushing the sled for her, 31-year-old Gillian Cook from Edinburgh.
Good. Let's go. Come on.
Get them shoes clean. We've seen a couple people slipping.
A couple of brakemen in the top 3 slipped at the top.
Ready? Ready? 1, 2.
Boy, she's pushing on an angle. Look at the way she leans into the sled, the driver. I think you got to be behind it. She's pushing against it. She should be totally behind them. Surprised the coaches haven't picked that up.
Misha McNeil was part of the torch relay, 2012 Olympic Games in London.
Skid, didn't help herself at all there. 50, 60, 100s down at this next clock. 60. And now the question is how much more time she can lose. One of the youngest pilots in the field, Tim.
20 years old, and she broke out in the sport a couple of years ago, took part in the Youth Olympic Games with a 2nd place. Last year, she had 2 top 2s in the America's Cup. It'll be fun to watch her career progress towards 2018.
British are very high on her 10-year career.
This is a country that has won gold and silver at the World Championships over the past 6 years. So they cross in 19th place. Virtually every sled in the 2nd seed has held to form with their start number. That's not going to change with the final sled.
Look at the holes. Look at the way that she's pushing. Look at her angle of her, you know, she's like sideways into the sled. She's got to find a way to get more behind it. Look at the eyes here. Ooh, here we go. Close them, blinks them. Look at that. Here I go. This is up top. Little high pressure there. And she taps before she gets into that curve. And that causes her to be in a little bit of a skid here. No, actually, that was pretty straight there.
Final sled coming up, and John had nothing but praise for this first-time performance last night by the Korean sled piloted by Sunak Kim with Miwa Shin, the brakeman. They will finish 20th out of 20, John. They may do that at every race this year, but still, they're not looking embarrassing on this Jamaican sled.
I'd like to know how much trade that Korea and Jamaica do with each other. This is a pretty strange combination. But as I said last night, I've had a lot of fun talking about it. You know what Korea has done to women's golf. And the men's golf's not too bad. In fact, where they're building the bobsled track for the 2018 Winter Olympic Games has a 24-hour golf course not far from it. It's lit at night. And when I was getting driven around,
you wouldn't have a life if you lived
over there. When I was driving around with this guy, he didn't speak very good English, but I asked him what his handicap was, and he put his hand up, 5. You know, and they are possessed with golf in that country. But my point is, they are so meticulous in the way they approach a sport like golf that they are applying the same instincts here. Their men were pretty good last night in the 2-man at the start, and I think you'll see that again today in the 4-man.
Final sled of the first run. Everyone will get a second heat. This is the 20th place sled, and they're quite a bit in back of not just first, but in back of 19th place by nearly a second.
At the bottom.
That's an experience, but they made it down safely. You may see a little bit of a hug and a smile. All the same, they are World Cup competitors.
You know, they're in Lake Placid next week, and I bet you they rent another sled in Lake Placid. You'll be surprised. They might take that over there, but I bet you they rent another sled in Lake Placid, because the sled doesn't matter. They're just getting their downtimes here. She probably has 70 trips, 60 trips in her life at the most. Look at her eyes. Again, they pay attention to detail, and bobsleigh is a sport of detail.
So the first run is done here. I'd like to tell you it's been a dramatic, exciting first run, but frankly, it's been fairly straightforward, with the United States dominating the top 3 positions, led by pilot Alana Myers with Asia Evans. USA 1, 2, 3. The Germans are finally making a move with 2 sleds in the top 5 here as they look to break into the medals. But Myers and Evans, John, have looked tremendous all season long.
Very impressed, especially with the way Myers, a big lady, gets into the back of that sled and gets into a great aerodynamic pose. They got a lot going for them, that team.
If there has been any surprise in the early going here, it's that team in 7th place right now. Humphries and Valois, 5,800s in back. Hey, they could move up.
5 places.
They could move up a few places. And
they went first.
No one, yeah, no one is assuming they're going to stay there in 7th place. But check at all of the top 20. We've got a big day of sliding still ahead. In just a few moments, we will have the first run of the 4-man bobsled competition. The United States has also been dominating men's bobsled in the early going this season, and we'll see what happens in the 4-man. Also later today, the second and final heats of both women and 4-man. So stick around. We'll be back here in about 13 minutes with much more bobsled action. Until then, for John Morgan, I'm Tim Singer. Thanks for joining us.